Today's episode is with a fellow who is a fascinating person, like really one of the more interesting folks that I have come across. His name is Raw of Earth. You can follow him on Instagram at raw_of_earth, and he is a superfoods advocate. He is a Kriya practitioner. He drinks urine from time to time. He has the most incredible head of hair that I've ever seen, and this guy's got amazing ideas. I mean, just go to his Instagram. Even if you don't use Instagram, just go instagram.com/raw_of_earth and just behold all of the things this guy's talking about: sunlight vacuuming, butthole sunning, tree meditations, dry fasting, skin brushing, just incredible things here. And I really wanted to talk to him. I wanted to pick his brain on a whole bunch of stuff. And we go into all sorts of interesting topics that I'm just really excited to bring to you. Human potential, what he reads, how he breathes. He's got a Kriya of the Week. It's KRIYA, KriyaoftheWeek.com, where he will take you through these movements that will help vitalize your body. Fascinating person. Just enjoy this conversation because it's broad and it's interesting, and I know you're going to love it. No ads this week. I just wanted to get this one out right to you. So please, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, just one really quick note. His audio is a little scratchy for the first 10 minutes or so. It's not terribly distracting, and I've turned the volume down, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. It's not like that for the whole episode, but you'll notice it's just a little scratchy and a little quieter, but I took care of it for you. No worries. Enjoy this episode, this fascinating conversation with Raw of Earth.
Welcome, everyone, to the Optimal Performance Podcast. My name is Sean McCormick. I'm a life coach, performance coach, wellness entrepreneur, and it's my pleasure to bring to you every single week the world's leaders in the field of performance so that you can live your life at its most optimal level. Plus, cutting-edge ideas so that you can stay ahead of the curve in an ever-changing world. Let's dig right in. And I'm here with Raw of Earth. If you have not seen Raw's Instagram, it's raw_of_earth. Welcome to the Optimal Performance Podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Sean.
Let's just start with your Instagram because there are people who are inspiring on Instagram, and then there are people who are educational and informative and instructional on Instagram. And rarely are there this mix of, holy shit, this guy is really inspiring, and I'm learning something every single time you post. And you are this amazing mixture of both. So I guess we'll just start with me blowing smoke up your ass. I thank you for providing such great content.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's actually, the Instagram thing and the social media thing, that avatar that we live, essentially, it's interesting, and it's playing out to be really interesting. 7-8 years ago, I was thinking, this online avatar seems like one day it's going to be maybe more important than my physical spacesuit that I'm going around in, because I can impact more people. I can build a bigger community. And this is the channel that everybody's watching, and not so many people are meeting me face to face. Even when I own businesses, I own gyms. And so I was in the business of creating connections and helping people in the physical world. But this Instagram thing started coming out. And so it's interesting because there's content that people will love, and then there's content that people need, and there's a mixture of that you have to recognize, because everyone loves the fear stuff, the negative. Hey, did you know this is really what's going on? Everyone loves that because human beings are addicted to knowing what could potentially kill us, right? Because that's just evolutionarily how we're programmed to keep us alive. So I've made a decision personally a long time ago, but definitely with social media, to stay clear of a lot of pointing the fingers and saying, hey, this is wrong, and really be on the side of the fence where I'm teaching people how to create and how to be better and live a healthier life and make their body energetically more powerful, so that, there's a lot of warriors, and warriors are definitely useful, especially since we're probably in the middle of some background war that's going on behind the scenes. We're, at wartime, warriors are useful, but we also need the people that are creating what's to come. And that's kind of the side of the fence that, at least currently in my life, I'm focusing on helping people with. Like, what is the earth going to look like, in 5 years from now? And are you going to have impact on it?
Yeah. To hear you speak out what I think a lot of what a lot of intentional Instagram users kind of go through is, you have a choice today. You can either demonize people, you can other people, you can whistleblow, you can advocate. And I think a lot of us kind of grapple with that, whether you've got 300 followers or 3 million. It's like, how do I use this powerful tool? And this year and a half has been a really great way to really allow me personally to decide, okay, which drum do I want to beat? How do I want to help create better systems, create greater health, advocate for a healthier way of life? So it's really cool to hear you describe that. Um, you've done so many interesting things. I think it would be really great to give some context. You said that you own gyms and you're a CrossFit competitor. Can you tell us a little bit about just sort of your origin story of how you got into performance, how you got into the competition, and the evolution of where you've been and where you are now?
Yes, of course. So I played hockey my whole life. I started when I was 3 years old. And so I played competitive hockey from 3 to 23 years old at a pretty high level. And I went to school for psychology. And that was because I was confused about what life was. And I didn't even really want to go to college, but I was like, if I'm going to go to college, because all that was important to me was hockey. But I was like, if I need to go to college, then I want to learn about the human being, because I'm going to have my human self forever. I might as well learn about how all of this works. And what I found when I went to college is that they don't really teach you anything about what I thought I was going to learn in psychology. And I also have a minor in exercise science. So it was basically just I went to school to learn more about being human. And so after the first couple semesters, I quit buying textbooks, and I just kind of skated through school, through university, getting average grades. But every single day I would go home and I would download, which was really just pirating back in, early 2000s. I would pirate courses and seminars and PDF books about all sorts of things having to do with, it started with psychology, then it ended up being like communication and interacting with people and teaching, and eventually meditation. And so, like, 19 years old, I'm finding these advanced meditation techniques. So 19 years old is it's like 18, it's 19 years ago. So 19 years ago, I'm in Michigan, and I'm laying on the ground, and I'm going through like how to make my brain waves change by thinking about different colors, which is then going to allow me to hum at the frequency of the earth, and in which case I could kind of travel through the earth and pop up in other people's consciousness and sort of manipulate them. It's kind of gray magic, kind of gray area. But this is the stuff I was doing. I was just experimenting with it. And that's what I was doing in the background. I wasn't telling anybody about it. And within that state, I started realizing, hey, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to move to California and I'm going to open up a gym. And it's going to be big tractor tires and ropes hanging from the ceiling and big open spaces. This is before anybody knew about CrossFit. At least I didn't know about it. And so I moved to California and I did just that. I opened up a gym and I was training people. And then I found out about CrossFit and I transferred my gyms over into CrossFit gyms. And I had a 10-year career essentially where I was owning and operating gyms and performing at a very high level within the sport of CrossFit. And some interesting things started happening with that. Primarily because I played hockey, I have a lot of injuries. I've got 6 labrum tears in my shoulders. I have dead nerves in several places on my body. Because of these injuries, I've got malfunctions in my body. It really hurts to work out. So I wouldn't work out, but CrossFit's a competitive sport, meaning that you compete to prove that your workout methods work. And so that was important for me to, because I owned a gym in downtown Los Angeles, for me to go to competitions and basically say, like, my methodologies work the best. So come to my gym and I'll teach you them. And so I go to competitions and I started winning them. And then I started getting hurt and injured. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to work out, but I'll still go to competitions, not thinking that I would do well at all in the competitions. But what I found was I kept on winning the competitions. I kept on doing very, very well. I was one of the top few hundred people in CrossFit, the 6 years that I was competitive. But I would say 4 out of those 6 years, I wasn't training. I wasn't working out. And it wasn't making sense to me that I could work with an athlete who was a stud as his private coach for an entire year, me myself not pick up a single barbell during that time. When the competition season rolled around, I would beat him. And I was like, what is going on? How is this possible? My entire life philosophy with exercise science degree was that if you train physically, within a gym, that you will be able to compete physically better. And I was finding that not to be true. On top of that, I had injuries. So how was I even able to do the stuff that I was doing competitively with my injuries? It was mind-blowing to me. So I started researching and I started finding out that there's other ways to increase the power of the human being besides putting it in a gym and primitively lifting up pieces of steel over and over and over again for years and years and years and years, which makes sense, right? When you think about it, it's kind of like primitive movements. I started finding out that the sun is a source of power. The earth is a source of power. Air is a source of power. The water that flows through our body. And then there's this other etherical force, you can call it consciousness, you can call it source. Some people call it God. Like there's this other source that's kind of mapping everything together. And I discovered a lot looking down those rabbit holes, to the point where I didn't really want to own the gyms anymore because it was boring to me. So I closed my gyms, and we're getting to the point where we are now. But I studied a lot after I closed the gyms. It freed up a lot of time. I was, diving deep into books. I was reading 10 books a day on just this stuff. Like, what is the human being? What is our placement here on the planet? How do we become powerful so we don't have to force our way through life? And I'm kind of out of that phase. I'm more in a productive phase now, which leads us to Instagram posting, where I'm teaching. I also run a multi-million-dollar network marketing organization centered around superfoods, where I teach people these concepts, and we use a business framework to practice the skills of manifestation and molding reality to your intentions and desires. And yeah, I'm really just right now increasing my vision of what life is. And that's what I think we all should be doing. That is the most important thing.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. What you're touching on, which for you started in college, was to really go research what you were passionate about. It's to follow your intuition, your instincts, to go down the rabbit holes that I think a lot of people either don't have the energy to do, or they're just sort of programmed by society and culture to live a certain way and to do a certain thing, and capture these milestones along their path of life. And I think we can kind of take this as a reminder to people that it's never too late to do that. We can all choose our own adventure every single day. We can go into the areas that are really fascinating to us. We can dive deep. I think it's really important to just remember that, because there's oftentimes this pressure and this lack of agency around people in their own life. And the most interesting people that I know, and I've had the luxury, the gratitude to be able to speak to all sorts of people in the world from all walks of life, is that when you trust your intuition, when you trust your instinct to go a little further, show up, do some more reading, spend some more time in stillness. I think that's a really important lesson, don't you? I mean, like that's critical for people.
Right. And I love that you brought up that it's never too late. Right. The one thing that I see come up with people is they feel that they've wasted a lot of time, right? Whether they, I was a Christian for 20 years and I don't believe in that anymore. And they're kind of down on themselves, or I worked a 9 to 5 for 50 years. I was just all I know is how to operate a machine. And so I'm not going to change. Right. I hear these, it's kind of like a program that like, well, I've been a certain way. There's no use being somebody else now. But from my experience and from what I hear from other successful people is that turning that page and starting a new chapter is one of the greatest things that we get to do in our lifetime. And like, from my perspective, it is definitely like top 1, 2, or 3 greatest things that exist in this life is being able to be somebody new.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how we get to live more than one life within the same life. And it doesn't matter what your past is. You start every single day as a new beginning. I mean, these things are in songs and parables and poetry. Like they're there for a reason. And yeah, so I'll just end it there. I could talk forever on that, but a lot of people feel this way. And so if that's, one of the listeners or viewers, just know that like literally you could be somebody brand new today. It just takes a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. That I want to go back to, your path in research and reading and consuming things, that the downloads that helped shape your trajectory and your worldview. Reading 10 books a day is astounding.
Oh,
Yeah,
a chapter from each book, not
got
10
it.
full books. That would be my superpower.
I thought you were one of those guys that did, the speed thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I tried doing that. It doesn't really work that well for me yet.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, good caveat. I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some of the most influential books or authors that really shaped your perspective on manifestation or lifestyle or being the person that you want to be? Are there like 3 or 4 that like really, really shaped you?
So there's this channeled book series, and I'm saying that many channeled books, which are books from authors that are not necessarily human beings, they're interdimensional beings. They implement their message into a human scribe who then writes a book. And I've read a lot of these. We could even say that many religious texts are channeled. And so, and also I didn't mention being Christian as a bad thing earlier. There's, that's all valuable. And that's the lesson in your previous life experiences, that no matter what you're doing, you bring and integrate that into your new chapters. But there's one book series, it's called Seth Speaks. It's kind of the first of many, many books. But Seth Speaks is the first one. And then what's the second one called? The second one's called The Nature of Personal Reality. That's the second book. And the second book, The Nature of Personal Reality, is actually more useful than the first one, but you need to read the first one to have context of the second one. Those books were pretty pivotal for me. It really allowed me to step sort of off the cliff, so to speak, and really start saying like, okay, if the stuff in this book is really true, then I should be able to fill in the blank. I should be able to quit, like literally quit working, quit trying to find money, quit. Like I should be able to not try to make money and still be able to exist luxuriously for as long as I want. Like if the stuff in this book is true, I should be able to manifest whatever I want. And that book really laid it out really plainly about how there's many aspect realities, and we're basically choosing based on our vibration which ones that we're experiencing. And that's when I started really testing the limits, and I really haven't found a limit. There's another one that has a really long name, but I can't find it. But another one is called Cosmic Consciousness, and that one's by Ken Wilber. And I like that one because it explains, like, so that's what I wanted psychology school to be, is the cosmic consciousness. It really just explains, like, it basically takes you through like the scientific background of human beings and then like beyond. And I would start there. There's other ones that I recommend to people, but they didn't really have profound impact to me. I kind of found them after the fact. But one that for people, there's a lot of people that they're just not happy with themselves, and they don't have confidence, and they don't have courage, and they kind of just feel like down all the time. And there's a book called Untethered Soul. And the great thing about Untethered Soul is it gets right into it. It's not like the first chapter where you have to listen to the author and the great things that they do. In Untethered Soul, I want to say even like sentence number 1 is about the voices in your head and how they are not you. And so really realigning the idea of me and I am, like what that means is profound for a lot of people, because we usually trust these voices in our head. But when we really start understanding the agenda of the voices in our head, it's really just to keep us in the comfort zone. You can kind of like put them aside and determine that you're going to listen to something else that's more motivating.
Yeah, tying it back to the fear mechanism, the amygdala that just tries to keep us in the red chakra, keep us safe, keep us alive. That is the voice that's talking poorly to you. That's your subconscious mind that was created between the ages of 0 and 7, before, when you were in a pure theta state and absorbing, ideas, concepts, norms around you. And oftentimes, Bruce Lipton says that that something like 98% of our behaviors and our actions are tied to our subconscious mind that was pre-programmed into us when we were little tiny kids. And so any sort of resource that helps somebody get some perspective on that those voices inside your head, that's not you. When you can make that disconnect, when you can detach from that, man, oh man, is that empowering? You can be able to make decisions for you with intention and not be, choked by your programming when you're a child. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because when you're a kid, you don't have a capability to process the stresses that's going on in your life. So you develop defense mechanisms which show up as programming, right? It's a defense mechanism to protect yourself. And you're basically letting your 3-year-old self determine how you show up to business meetings, how you think about yourself in a negotiation, how you think about yourself when you get into an argument in a relationship. It's like your 3-year-old self who, got picked on the schoolyard and made all these defense mechanisms. Like, that's what's running the show.
Yeah. And that is a terrible master. There's so many directions I want to go. I mean, there's just so many insights that come from personal care to, practices around the sun, to states of consciousness. But I want to start by just an explanation of Kriya, because I know that that's a fundamental part. It's an important part of your life. Can you explain to everyone the concept of Kriya? What is Kriya?
So Kriya, the word is a Sanskrit word and it means to do. And I have a website called kriyaoftheweek.com. And we basically get programmed to Kriya every single week and you repeat it for 7 days. Now, Kriyas traditionally could be done for much longer than 7 days. It could be done every day for 11 days or every day for 108 days or 40 days. And what we're doing is we're doing a Kriya, which I'll get into a little bit in a second, and we're repeating it every single day so that your body, as it's reprogramming itself in terms of thoughts like we were just talking about, but even physical cells and energetic cells and the way that our blood flows and the energy currents going through our organs, the Kriya will have an effect on that, because every single day we're in stress, we're in pollution, we're sitting down. All of that is having impact on how your body is being designed. The cells that are being implemented and programmed overnight and throughout the day, all of that's all the pollution, polluted thoughts, polluted everything, people, polluted events, all of that's coming in, and it's having an impact on your makeup, on your physical cellular structure and your energetic self. And so if you put a Kriya into your life once a day and you repeat it, what starts to happen is those energies created within the Kriya are going to start offsetting all of the stresses within your life. And Kriyas are specifically designed to do, right? The Kriya means to do. You do certain actions like breath work, or if you're familiar with acupuncture, you can stick a needle in a meridian point, and that's going to stress it in a way that unblocks the channel and allows the energy flow. Well, there's another way to do that, which is moving your body. So if you move your body in a certain way or position it in a posture and hold that posture, it's going to have the same effect where the energy is going to start going through certain channels in your body. And we can actually use Kriyas to make you think a certain way, or I shouldn't say make, but to allow your body to open up to new possibilities of thoughts, new possibilities of emotions. It can strengthen certain aspects of yourself. So like I said, breath work, movement, chanting is another one. So chanting your vibration and bringing in healing vibrations through your own voice, and you doing this every single day for a number of days is going to allow you to step into the remainder of your day tuned to the vibration that the Kriya is intended to impact you.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you give me an example of one of the postures?
So I'll just use this week. So there's all Kriyas are completely different, but this week there's one of the exercises where we're sitting down and our arms are out. I'll just try and explain it. Our arms are out like a little bit above shoulders, maybe like 45, and they're going to be crisscrossing like this. So they'll switch. So you're going to crisscross them in front of your chest and then go back to wide. And while you're doing that, you're making the sound hud, hud. And as you do that it's spelled HAR, but it's more like HUD if you made that hud, hud. When you do that, you pull in the navel center to make that sound, that like the 2 inches below your belly button is snapping in. And that's where all your nadis, your energy meridians in your body cross, like they basically originate there. That's where all your life force was coming in through your mom when you were in the womb. So you're basically stimulating this like power center every time you cross your hands of hud, hud, hud. And you're doing this for 11 minutes, which gets very exhausting. So during that 11 minutes, you have to figure out how to keep your arms up, crossing while snapping your navel point in. And you're going to access power that's outside of yourself. right? And you have to go past those boundaries and keep on doing it. And so now you're charging yourself with this, extra energy. You're also crossing, this sounds like a lot, but
No,
during
I'm on the pins and needles here. Keep going.
You're staring at the tip. So your eyes aren't closed. Usually our eyes are closed, but in this particular one, your gaze is at the tip of your nose, which means that your eyes are crossed, and your eyes are actually kind of pulling on your pineal gland through your pituitary and hypothalamus. There's a cord. Our eyes, one cord goes to our occipital lobe, and that processes vision. And our eyes are also taking in light and bringing it to hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal gland. So by crossing your eyes and looking at the tip of your nose, it's activating that channel. So you can see that our body is a piece of technology. And just kind of like using this meat suit to carry us to work and to the grocery store and maybe to the gym and back home. Like that's how most, and I don't like saying this like as a spell, but I'll just rearrange my words. My intention is that most people start to open up to the fact that our body is much more than just a machine that carries our brain places to have experiences. We kind of just think of our brain is us, is me, and then this body is kind of just dangling off of it, and it's just kind of like a vehicle. It's not necessarily the case. When we were in the womb, all of our cells were one little like smushed up ball. And so as we grew, as these cells turned into our brain, our organs, our feet, our hair, it's all connected. And so what we do with our feet actually affects how we think about life, how the emotions play out in certain scenarios. So we want to be making sure that we're moving our body and utilizing, stretching into it as much movement as possible so that we can experience the full spectrum existence. Because if our body is still and kind of just rigid, that's going to also transfer into our thoughts and emotions. And yogis and the East have known about this stuff forever. And Western science is like laughably just starting to validate like the surface level. Like they're just now admitting, okay, there's these things called meridians. Yeah, that's true. There is some invisible energy. Yeah, there is some invisible aura going around you. But the way that they kind of validate it is so elementary. It's so surface level that the study and the research and the masters out there that speak about this stuff, they don't care to explain it to Western scientists. They don't care to legitimize their teachings because they're experiencing it. I mean, there's people on this planet that like levitate and make themselves disappear and pop up somewhere else, and remote viewing. And this is like the human capacity is far beyond what we're taught.
Yeah. I hope that people are listening to this and thinking about how this applies to them, because there's so much usable wisdom from everything that you've just said. And when you can tap into the frequency that Ra's at right now and that we're at within this conversation, to really think about, maybe pause right now, go outside barefoot in the grass and do this week's Kriya.
7 days free.
7 days free
on the website.
Try it out. Because that's the thing, right? Like we can read lots of books. We can listen to podcasts all day long. There's tons of information out there at our disposal. But until you start like tinkering around, being okay looking silly for a minute, moving your body or making weird sounds, there has to come this gnosis. You have to experience this stuff.
I love that word.
Yeah, me too. We have to, I'm going to change my language. It is in each of our best interests to experiment with this stuff, not to just hear about it or know about it or watch a YouTube video, but to actually try it out, because that's when things really shift. And in my experience as a coach and as a podcaster, being exposed to all of these incredible ideas, you have to try them out, because until you do, then it's just sort of intellectual knowledge that doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything.
I I like that. The integration is the main point, right? And so even if you're hearing stuff that you never heard before, or maybe even stuff that you flat out disagree with, there's still information for you to integrate. And the experience, like you're saying, that gives you even more information. So even if you go do something and you're like, that didn't do crap, that's that's integratable. You can integrate that into your life. And really what we're doing is collecting experiences. That's the point of life. And then we're integrating it into our awareness of what reality is. And so the more experiences we have, the greater asset we are to everybody and ourself in terms of that integration, that combination of all the things. And so it's like, what is turning on that TV to watch that, 30-minute Netflix show that's going to really turn into 2 hours? Like, if we could just commit to not doing that and having experiences that may or may not be valuable to you, then over the next 10 years, you develop into somebody new.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. One concept that I keep going back to time and time again with each of my guests is, what's the point? I use the term biohacking a lot, and I'm kind of getting sick of it, to be honest. There's just better language to use. But what's it for, right? So you're tracking your steps or your heart rate variability. That's awesome. You're using red light. I just keep showing this thing because I love it. You're using devices like red light. I think you're going to dig this if you haven't heard about it already. You're going to use devices like this, red light, for your testicles. This is a
Is
cup.
that actually a light?
Yeah, it's red light in a cup, and you put it you put it right underneath your boys. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. It's called the Optimus Red. I did an episode with Joel, the creator. He also has an ice pack for your balls that you do at nighttime called the Jet Pack. So now I'm red lighting on my balls in the morning and ice in my nuts at night. But what is it for, right? Like what are these biohacking practices, blue light blocking glasses and et cetera, biogeometry pendants? What's it all for? And the idea that I keep going back to is that all of these things that we're doing, nutritional tinkering, breath work, cold plunges, is to fortify, to up level our vibration so that we can go out and be the best people that we can be to affect ourselves, our community, and the universe. It's like, so what, you did 10,000 steps today? What does that actually mean? What's the benefit to you, the I, we, all? What's the benefit there? And just in the time that we've been talking, it's clear to me that as we continue to do these things, we raise our physical vibration, our emotional vibration, our energetic vibration, because it's going somewhere, so we can do something with it. We can have more energy to create. We can have more energy to love. We can have more energy to have a positive impact on the planet. And your example that you just gave within Korea is just an excellent illustration of that. I mean, does that jive with? I know you know what biohacking is, but tell me your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because that takes a mature mind to contemplate, right? Is like, am I just doing this to live longer? I mean, death is actually a healthy part of a life system, of a living system. And so I would say, to your point, that all of these biohacks and everything, like, even though it's kind of, that's what reels people in, is you get to live longer. That's kind of a redundant reason. Like, it doesn't it doesn't serve the I, the we, the all. And I love that you said that. There's a lot about that in cosmic consciousness too. But it doesn't serve anyone, including yourself, to just try to live long. And it's also quite motivated by fear, which is going to lower your originating vibration of why you're doing all this. You're kind of like trying to run away from something that's completely natural and healthy, which is you dying. What I like to mention is that the more power that we have, the less force needed. So if we can make ourselves powerful, then our intentions are going to be easier to create. And the will of your intentions, presuming that you have the I, we, and all, but the will of your intentions coming to be, that's why we do this, so that whatever you want to create, you're able to create. And then we all get to live in everybody's dream world, right? Like, I think we all want everybody to be powerful so that they don't have to struggle through life, and they get the things done that they need to get done. They support the people that they need to support, and they create the systems and the lifestyles that they desire, so that we all are living in this dream world. Because as it is now, there's agendized propaganda and elite systems that seems to be designed for everybody to create nightmares, right? Like, everyone's kind of creating their nightmares reality as opposed to a dream reality. And that's what we all get to exist in. We all get to wake everybody up and say, hey, say no to McDonald's and try this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be better for you. It's going to also be better for everyone else.
Yeah. Right.
Shine some light on your nuts too while you're at it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Who are you watching now? What sort of authors, thinkers that are alive now do you really appreciate? Are there accounts or people that you specifically like? Yeah, this guy, this gal, they're onto something next level.
So there's this guy, Dreaming of Earth. There's a book. It's called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm into the Dreaming of Earth. And it's written by a guy named Stephen Harad Buhner, is how I think you say his name. And this guy has written other books like Secret Teachings of Plants, which is an epic book, The Lost Language of Plants. And he's literally teaching people how to communicate with the earth. That first book that I mentioned, Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm into the Dreaming of Earth, is all about accessing the power. There's that word again, the power of everything around us. Basically, our self-identity is a mixture of our senses and our reactions to the senses, right? And so right now, we're not thinking about our heart beating and how the red blood cells need to get through our body and the thousands of other sounds and frequencies going through our body right now. We're not having to think about all that stuff, but all that stuff is happening. And our body gates, it closes off our awareness to all this stuff that's outside of our senses. And these books, he teaches people to open those gates up, because the bee flying around you is telling you something, right? When you walk outside onto the earth, there's information transmitting up into you. The light coming off the sun, that's information. It's a frequency. It's resonating. It's oscillating, I should say. And that's a code. and the trees have information, and he teaches you how to start to open up your awareness to the point where you can start to listen and then eventually communicate with the plants, the earth, the universe, the stars. And he just explains it so well. He just explains it so well. And so I'm really impressed with his work right now. There's so many people out there, but I really like that sort of stuff because it allows me. So this is where I'm like integrated. I'm like, oh, wow, this is like I've had a gnosis that this is a fully living system, right? That the earth and the galaxy, there is a life force in there that is probably more aware of itself and all of us than we are aware of ourselves. Like, for instance, we don't have an awareness of our kidney cell. It's not like I can't go into my kidney cell and just tap into one of those cells and get a downloaded report of how it's feeling today. But if you imagine the galaxy as a being or the earth as a being, there probably is the awareness where it can tap into one of us and get instant download of what's going on in our life because we have that capability. And so when you start to think bigger than our human self and then actually get like in words, like from somebody's lifetime of experience and researching and teaching this stuff, when you get in words how to integrate this into your life where you can be more than yourself, I think we all have desires to be more, right? That there's more for us. And his books satisfy that for me currently.
Cool. So that's what you're on now. Plant intelligence and the imaginal realm. I love that.
Into the Dreaming of Earth.
Into the Dreaming of Earth.
Like these books that like the first thing you see, you're like, wow, this title's amazing. I want to read this. I remember that's all I thought of is like, somebody messaged me on Instagram. That's the great thing about technology. He said, hey, this is the best book I read. You should read it. And he just sent me the title and I was like, I'm definitely reading this.
I'm in.
Yeah. But I already read some of his other books, but yeah, this is his latest book.
Excellent. Well, that's a no. That's a no must read for me. It's clear to me that you have learned and applied a lot of the principles of the things that we're talking about. And so I'm always curious, about behavioral changes that people can make that would improve their life. So I would love to hear what your morning routine is.
Currently, I'm doing Ashtanga yoga every morning. And Ashtanga is a movement practice. And it's just like all yoga where it starts out, it just looks kind of like a movement practice. But the whole point of it is that while you're moving, it's a kriya in a way, but while you're moving, you're breathing in life force, you're breathing in prana, and through the movements and the postures that you get into, you're able to integrate this prana throughout your body in a more effective way than if you didn't go there. And so I'm 38 years old now, and I've had a lifetime of sports, and I really feel that moving my body in a way that's healthy and not so like working out at a gym, at least what I know it to be, it makes my body rigid. And so I like to I'm trying to like all this beef jerky that my muscle turned into. I'm trying to like loosen that up because ultimately, as we get older, the fluids going through our body don't start to reach the crevices that it used to reach because the fascia gets all like hard and dehydrated. And so I want to just I'm using Ashtanga, but there's tons of stuff that people can do to make sure that the fluid going through your body is getting into all of your tissues, which goes into everything that we've talked about with Kriya. It's the same thing, but we want to be doing that system wide. And so that's happening in the morning. I also,
what do you consume?
I consume? Yeah. So I love superfoods and herbs and, ancient Chinese medicine. I love that. That's how, like, when I owned my gyms and I was really competitive in CrossFit, I was obsessed with, I used to carry a duffel bag filled with mushrooms and all sorts of stuff. And so I manifested a reality where my network marketing organization, we deal with superfoods. And so I've just got like shelves of superfoods. So I'm consuming tons of our products. But I mean, it's kind of too much to list, but there's a lot of superfood powders and capsules going into this body. It's almost too much to list, but yeah, there's green drinks and all that stuff. But
what's one of the stranger things that you're taking in? You doing like offals and organs? You doing like unicorn eyelashes, or what? Try me, because I gotta know.
I don't think. I mean, every once in a while I do urine, which the only reason why I don't do it more is just because the inconvenience of, like, I have got like a cup in my bathroom that I just pissed in, and then I drink it, and then it's like, now I have to wash the thing. It's like, it's just kind of inconvenient. But urine has this energy that we're talking about. It's got a lot. And you guys can just Google Montauk Chia urine therapy, and there'll be pages of, from a Taoist perspective, why this is beneficial to you. Ice baths was something I was doing, but for like